with roll call. All three districts are present. The notice of meeting was properly posted on January 13th, 2025. We'll begin with number 1, which is the discussion and possible action regarding approval of the minutes of December 30th.
Motion approved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, number 2 is the discussion and action of election of chairman and vice chairman for calendar year 2025.
If you are amenable, I would move that you maintain the chairmanship.
Okay, I would enjoy doing that.
Second.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, number 3 is the discussion and possible action regarding, I'm sorry, who, and then the vice chairman. I'm sorry, we'll go back to number 2, election of chairman and vice chairman. Okay, so just for vice, I would recommend Paul. Okay, I'll make a motion to make Paul our vice chairman. I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding the selection of the January 2025 BOCC Employees of the Month and the 2024 Employee of the Year.
Thank you. Yes, you did. Okay.
We select one, correct, for the month.
Good morning. We have 2 for the month, and we had 2 nominations. We have the option A and the option B, so you don't have to make a decision.
Okay. Well, I'll move that we select option A and option B, very deserving nominations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then in regards to the Employee of the Year.
This one, we only get to choose one, and you have a choice out of everybody that was on the list that I sent you yesterday. And if you want to choose, name it like you choose, I'll use Brad because he's my employee, but if you were choosing him to be Employee of the Year, he would be January option A.
Okay. I make a motion that for Austin Morgan,
You just do the option A and
oh,
the
just
month.
option A.
March. You're wanting March and December.
March and December. Okay.
We have a motion and a second. The motion for March, option
March
A.
and December, option A.
I think that is a very good choice. This person has been nominated twice and came with very high recommendations from multiple departments, including our DAs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 4 is discussion possible action regarding the financial procedures for the Oklahoma County Free Fair Association. This is actually a duplicate, so we can strike this one. And then number 5 is the one I'd actually like to speak to because Jeff Parker's here today. So I'll make a motion to strike.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then number 5 is what I had just read, discussion possible action regarding the County Free Fair Manual and financial procedures for the Oklahoma County Free Fair Association. The manual is attached, and our board chair with the Free Fair Association is here, Jeff Parker. And Mr. Parker was very kind to send over the County Free Fair Manual, which is provided by the state auditor. It is regarding the Oklahoma statutes and financial procedures for the County Free Fair. I had the opportunity to sit down with Clerk Treat yesterday and her team, Chantel and Christina and Ashley, to talk further about what this looks like, and would like to, offer some suggestions. But first, just from that meeting, first would like to hear from Jeff in regards to what you have provided for us today.
Well, we really have no guidance. We've never had a playbook. We lean toward this, but, it's the county and we're not politicians. We're elected officials, but that don't mean anything. But we want some hard guidelines to figure out what we're doing. Because we're taking care of the kids and we have no fair facility and we wing it. So.
Well, we want to provide you some structure and being able to have processes outlined. I was surprised. I was looking for the current manual and there is not one. So I'm excited to be able to work with your board and policy and governance, and then also the clerk's office in order to put together a strong program and direction for this. And so in the conversation that I had with Clerk Treat, is that we really have three options. And so the first option would be for us to be able to hire, I guess, a director or a coordinator for the Free County Fair Board that would be able to take care of the administrative work, be able to do the requisitioning, be able to do, the contracts, any of the other duties assigned by that board. So kind of like their secretary,
Right.
but it needs to be a county employee.
I agree.
Because it's only 2 events per year, we have concern because I talked to our HR director, Karen, in regards to possibly hiring for that position. I feel like it would be a little bit difficult, especially since the salary that's been assigned is less than $5,000 a year at this time. And so, but that is option A, and we can talk further about it. I'm going to list all 3 options. Option B would be an MOU with the clerk. And so they had suggested maybe doing an MOU to where the clerk could handle the financial piece of it. But really their preference was for us to have a position in order to support the Free County Fair. And then item C would be a current BOCC employee, an employee that is currently in a department such as HR and safety that has the bandwidth that would be able to take on some additional responsibilities, probably somebody that would be excited about the livestock shows and, being able to provide education and work with the board. And so those are 3 areas that, in regards to solutions that we found. There is still a lot of work in regards to once we have chosen which direction that we want to go, and we can continue to look into this, maybe, make, further decisions at another policy and governance meeting. But the clerk's office and Chantel in the clerk's office, they said that they would be very interested in looking over all of these forms that were provided to make sure that they're consistent with our approach, and maybe having kind of an addendum to add to this specific to Oklahoma County processes. But other than that, I think the first step that we need to decide is what approach are we going to take in regards to helping them, operate better, be able to pay their jurors. Are they jurors?
Judges.
Judges quicker. Right now they're 3 months past due on getting paid for the last event. Currently, I have worked with LaDonna as chairman of BOCC in order to put those contracts across, and I think all of our offices work towards the challenges with the state fair in regards to
We have the money to pay them, but
Yeah.
it's just
it's just trying to get them paid. So we really need to make a decision and put together a strong process.
because
so
we
that
do
way
have
you
a
are
budget, and
successful.
we stick in the budget, and that's why if we have to say hire a secretary, we can put it in the budget for next year, or pay part of it, or a quarter of it, or we're just trying to get some help.
Yeah. And, and we appreciate your leadership. LaDonna had very nice things to say about you in regards to being a board chair that is really willing to step up and make this a really strong board and county program. So,
Well, I don't want to make this my new home here.
well, we appreciate your leadership. So, thoughts on those 3 options, and Karen has some ideas if you want to join us up here, Karen,
Please.
in regards to Any other thought that you've had since yesterday?
I'm just the idiot.
You brought us a manual. That's a big deal. Yes.
Good morning. Jessica and I spoke yesterday a little bit about your program and what we're needing to do to get your program built and help you guys get where you want to be at. I do have a employee that is willing to take the task on. I visited with him a little bit yesterday, and she's very, very smart. She's very good with finances. She can requisition, so she'd be willing to take it on if that's what y'all decide to do.
Who did you have in mind for that, Karen?
Laura. She is our, her official title is HR Safety Administrator, Office Administrator.
Oh, safety around cattle.
Yeah, I know. Look out for the cattle. So that's totally up to the board if you want to go that direction. She is willing to take on the task.
What are your thoughts on keeping it BOCC or at Clark?
I'm not, well, Jason's here, but he wasn't in the meeting with us at that time. I believe that the clerk, they preferred for us to actually have a position that handled this, so that way it's consistent year over year. The clerk would only be handling really the finance piece of it in regards to requisitioning and but not so much of the administrative piece. And
Right.
I do believe, and the clerk's office also believed that some of those responsibilities that you listed on our call, such as, you know, contacting the Oklahoma Tourism Department and raising awareness, that still falls in line with LaDonna's responsibilities at OSU Extension and being a partner for
That's
that.
fine.
But in regards to administrative, making sure you're, you know, getting people paid, you know, making sure that, you know, we have strong policies and procedures and forms. They just really felt like it would be better to have a position handling that, or a current employee that could take on some additional responsibilities.
What are your thoughts on needing to update a job description, or would this fall under a special projects type of scenario, or?
I think that would be up to Karen. I think it would be best moving forward to have a clear defined job description in regards to what those roles and responsibilities would be for that.
Definitely.
That position
Probably my
within
thoughts
HR.
on it being that it's not a full-time, everyday role, and we would put it as an additional duty onto this position and update that job description.
Yeah, I would like for it to be added as a duty or assigned as a secondary
Right.
responsibility, so that way when
Right.
they do their evaluation, we can get feedback from the, you know, the
Right.
fair board in regards to their performance and.
Oh, I agree.
partnership.
I don't think we needed an additional job description, but I think we need to add the additional duties to this specific job.
But it's only crazy about 2 to 3 months out of the year.
Right.
Yeah. And then,
You'll forget about it.
Oh, never forget about job.
and then say if we did move in the direction of assigning Laura additional responsibilities, then the clerk's office said that they would be a great partner in regards to making sure that they work with whoever takes on that responsibility, that the forms are correct, and that, you know, all the language is correct, and that this is adopted, and we can adopt this at BOCC.
Okay. It's you guys vote.
I had a quick question. Going back a little bit, we have a requisitioning officer already.
Correct.
And they aren't being paid timely.
We have a requisitioner now, yes, and I don't, and that person has requested for that responsibility to be removed from their plate just because of other responsibilities being added. I don't know if it's our requisitioner that's the issue, or it's other issues in regards to administration. So I don't want to pinpoint any of
Yeah,
that
I'm not
here.
blaming, I don't,
Yeah, or
don't know
point
where
any
it's balls
blame.
getting
I just
dropped
know
at.
we need to fix it moving forward. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, and it was just somebody that had some bandwidth that we assigned, and it's outside of their scope.
I think it goes back to just people aren't being paid, and no matter who it is, then how is that happening? I guess.
Yeah.
well, when we hire a judge, they fill out paperwork like they're a county employee. That's why a lot of judges don't want to do it, because all the mess paperwork, that's the way it works. And then it goes through all the chains to get them paid and then back. But if we work it a little different, according to that, we can pay the judges to the different accounts we have.
The great thing about this, Ryan, is that we don't have any procedures in place.
Gotcha.
The rule in the county right now. And so having some procedures in place, having strong communication among departments, being able to have a requisitioner that's assigned to something that they're actually, working towards and working, with the board with, will make this a stronger program and be able to, really probably raise awareness in regards to what the Free County Fair does and help them be more successful in their events moving forward.
Because you may not believe it, we have no facilities. We can't even use a state fair park half the time. I mean, just once the state fair park in the county's third year, it's a corporation now. We're just out to the
The
wind.
issue with that, the reason why they can't use their state fair park is that they are requiring us to carry liability insurance, and that's unconstitutional for us to do. So they.
But see, I can go put it under my name and pay the insurance, and I don't care how you do it. There's ways around it. But I'm not trying to do the,
Laura wouldn't necessarily have to battle any of those challenges. That's
No.
definitely could be taken up by the chairman of the board of the county commissioners if we have any issues like that. But in regards to the process, moving forward and what is working.
well, it's all for the
today.
kids, that's what.
Yeah.
And people forget about the rural community in Oklahoma County. There's a lot of kids out there. Well, not just agriculture, you got the interurban stuff with all the robots and all. It's neat what they can do.
Absolutely.
And this is how I think you had said on our call, the county free fair manual is being used among 75 other counties. It's, I think, rare or unusual that we're having our OSHA extension office handling all of the administration. So this is helping us be more
Yes,
in
I've
line
had
with
other
counties.
fair boards call me. How are y'all even getting this done? I mean, was it?
Are those judges, are they 1099 employees?
That's how the county wants it. And it's for $300, which they're not exceeding the annual pay scale, but it's just whatever.
I
They're
think,
contract help basically, so they're,
gotcha. I think for now, what District 1 would like to do is, we prefer a BOCC employee, but I would have to defer and talk to Joe a little bit more about which employee that would be. But we would greatly prefer option 3, the BOCC employee.
Joe's in the room. Do you have any thoughts? Okay. I don't know who else other than who Karen's outlined that would have the bandwidth, or another department that it would be most appropriate with. I mean, so I feel comfortable moving forward.
I know I opened a can of worms, but
And I know we
somebody
need
had to
to
open it.
get this moving because you've got an event coming up in February and another one coming up in August. And if we can, work towards getting this all tightened up,
Right.
that's what's best for the Free County Fair Board.
We're
And
still
so-
gonna put the show on. Y'all can still fuss and fight, we'll figure it out, so.
So respectfully, I would be willing to make a motion in order to move forward with having Laura be the Free County Fair Board coordinator, along with other tasks that she is doing in her HR administrative role. And that she would work with the clerk's office in order to make sure that all the forms, processes, and procedures are in line with our standards at the county, as well as the will of the Free County Fair Board.
Do you want to make that motion pending any modifications in job description and or changes in salary or stipend to take care of this?
Well, I don't know, because I don't think we can make any changes in BET in regards to what they're currently receiving for salaries, but that what we could do is we could make the motion to move forward, and then at the next policy and governance meeting, we can review this, approve it, and then put it across BOCC.
Works
So that way, at least Laura and Karen can start working on what that looks like moving forward and doing the research. You wouldn't necessarily have to come back. We
That's part of my
appreciate your
job.
time,
I mean, if I need to come
but-
back, that's,
but at least we can give the direction for the process to start rolling, and then we can make final decisions at the next February EOCC meeting. And then if you get into it and, if D1 makes it, if we determine that there might be somebody else that would be better suited or for that task, then we can also review that again. But I would like to at least start moving in that direction in regards to looking at the salary, seeing what Ladon is using that salary currently for, and having a better understanding of how we can make this
right,
process and procedure.
right. Because if we need to, we can, in the budget request, we can add more. It may not get more, but we can request more to help pay for.
And until then, the board may have to pick, help in certain areas, just so that way it's not so much on Laura if we determine that is.
Oh, trust me, I don't want to
Yeah.
overload it.
But we do want to make sure that your jurors get paid, your judges.
Second the
So,
motion.
so the motion is for us to move forward with looking further at the Oklahoma statutes and financial procedures of the Oklahoma County Fair. That as of right now, we're looking at HR, Karen Kent, as the supervisor of Laura to help work with the clerk's office to make sure that we move forward in clearly defining the processes and procedures, so that way we can approve it at the next policy governance meeting and put it across BOCC. Sound good?
So am I fired now?
Okay, you're not fired. We
Okay.
appreciate you. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for your time. Okay. The next item, number 6, is discussion and possible action regarding a stipend for Christine Troxel for the burial and cremation services. And after talking with Dane, unfortunately, we did not vote or make a motion in regards to what that stipend amount is. And so I was not aware of that we didn't do that. And so I do not have that information with me today. So I'm not as prepared as I would like to be in order to be able to give a firm number of what that looks like. And so unfortunately, I feel like we need to defer this to February and then come to that meeting with a number so that way we can start providing for that stipend.
I agree. I did have that written down in notes, but I do not have that with me.
Yeah, I have it written down, but I just don't have it with me. So from our last meetings. So if I could do I need a motion to defer? Okay, I'll need a motion to defer.
Second.
Did you motion? Okay. Okay. I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 7, we have a guest here. This is a discussion and possible action regarding the policies, processes, procedures, and status report related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's records retention policy. And so since Ryan is new and we're excited that you're here, just an update on that. We used ARPA dollars in order to be able to fund a consultant to come in and work with the county in order to put together a retention policy, so that way we know in regards to each department how long we have to hold on to record. We had issues in regards to data storage, and so this will help IT be able to better maneuver those challenges, and then it'll also let all of our departments have their own InfoSec policies that was already passed in a previous meeting on file in regards to what those retention policies look like. This consultant is Paul. Paul Fisher is with Iron Mountain, and then we also have Christopher on Teams in order to go through the presentation. But I just want to be real clear because there were a lot of questions as we were going through this process and trying to determine the need for the retention policy. And their job is not to go in and tell everyone, what especially departments that already have policies in place. We're just trying to gather the information, make recommendations, especially to BOCC are the ones that are requesting it. And then they're going to put together these policies in basically one document for us to be able to understand the needs for all the departments. And so they're just here in order to help us glue this together, offer suggestions, especially for legal suggestions, and work with our legal department. But it's very, very much needed, and so we're excited for you to be here today so we can start that process. After we hear the presentation, we do need to make a decision in regards to who is the primary contact, and we can discuss that afterwards.
Thank you, Jessica, for the intro, and good meeting all of you. As she mentioned, I'm Paul Fisher. I'm the primary contact for our state and local government clients across Oklahoma, as well as a good part of the Midwest and South. Just administratively, Chris Whitaker is on the line. I don't know if he's actually in the meeting now. I know he texted me that he needed to be let in, so I just want to make sure.
I am.
Well, awesome.
I can. I'm in the meeting. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So, and Chris is from our information governance team. He is the subject matter expert that I work closely with on similar county projects. So he'll be leading the presentation with his team as far as the implementation. But I'm your main resource from a contracting standpoint and work with Chris all the time. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you as far as the overview and the walkthrough you want to do, and obviously make this interactive. If you guys questions come up through Chris's presentation, we'll address them. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Sounds great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm sharing a presentation or a few slides we shared with Jessica some time ago. And let me grab that. And really, so overall, this presentation essentially lays out the process and how we would go about to deliver this project, which is creating the records retention schedule for Oklahoma County. So as Paul mentioned, we'd like to make this as interactive as possible. Please, at any time, if there's a question or something you see, please feel free to jump in and we can take those as we go along. From a quick housekeeping perspective, from a timing standpoint, approximately how much time do we have? I just want to make sure I stay within whatever time has been allotted.
I don't know how much time do we. How long?
We don't know, Chris. There's not a specific time limit, but
Okay.
get through it as best you can.
Okay, exactly. All right. So with that said, so the way that we're going to deliver this project, again, creating a records retention schedule for Oklahoma County, is utilizing a system that we call Policy Center. So Policy Center is our system that we use for the creation, updating, and maintenance of records retention schedules. So essentially, what we will do is use our system to create initially what we call a records classification scheme. So think of it as a retention schedule without the retention periods. So, the high level goal of creating this first is to ensure that we create records categories for all the different departments and areas within Oklahoma County. A list of those were shared with us several months ago when we were going through the process to get to this point. So a number of the areas like human resources and accounting and finance, areas like that would be, applicable to any organization regardless of industry. We have a sort of a draft listing of the different types of records categories and specific record examples already built for this. So, we're not starting from scratch in terms of this process. And we will utilize those, the information that we have to start. Where we would have the involvement of Oklahoma County is when we begin to build out those specific, those records categories and record types that are specific to Oklahoma County. We would look to, in fact, I'm gonna move ahead a little bit. So this is what I was referring to developing the classification scheme. Again, the retention schedule minus the retention periods. So we'll work with, we'll need to have contacts from some of the different areas to be able to reach out and schedule a meeting and just talk with them about the different types of records that they use. We'll also want to spend time with these other areas I mentioned, again, accounting and finance, HR, where we're going to, present information about the records categories, again, information we already have, and have those teams review and sign off on it and just say, yes, we use those categories of records. We don't use that one. Hey, maybe here's one we could add, again, just to get this down pat. Typically, I'm sorry, was there a question?
No.
All right, great. So typically for this process, this generally takes a few weeks, just depending on around the number of sessions we need to schedule. I'm going to say within the proposal we had scheduled in somewhere around 10, I think it was 8 to 10 sessions with the departments to talk about this process. So once we get all of the different types of records categories built, we then validate that and confirm it. Once we have that built, which is sort of the framework of the retention schedule, we then, start to apply the record keeping, laws for state of Oklahoma and also federal laws and regulations. We typically run both, and we share that with the client so they can see that. We typically recommend using the longer of the two, so that way you've sort of built your retention schedule, utilizing in some cases the most prudent conclusion for how long the record should be kept. So once we apply that, we build the draft retention schedule, and then again we'll want to have the Oklahoma County team take a look at the schedule and then take a look and see if there are any compelling business reasons as to why the records should be kept longer. So let's say, the legal research or the law says keep the records 5 years, but maybe for a special project or some other compelling reason, you might say, hey, we need to keep it 6 years just because it's part of a special project or something like that. So we'll want you all to weigh in and give us that feedback. Once we have that done, we'll have, we then publish the retention schedule and set it up in our system, again, called Policy Center. We'll want to train one user on the system just so if they want to go in and do different things with the retention schedule, download a report of the schedule, go in, take a look at information. We typically will do that as a person, as a point of contact. In terms of this specific contract, one of the services that is included in this project is what we call attended monitoring. So because the system has the ability to track the record keeping laws and if there's any changes year to year, our team will go in and of course with the guidance and with the approval of Cook County, our team will go in and actually accept and make those changes for you, present you an updated retention schedule. So again, let's say there was a law that changed record keeping from 5 years to 7 years. We review all of that with you all, and then to have you weigh in and say, yes, accept the change, or no, don't accept it because, we're using the current schedule against current records, or again, whatever that compelling reason would be. So our goal was to provide an overall and comprehensive solution to help you all update this as well. So again, this is just sort of a high level overview. So I'll stop here. Any questions, thoughts?
I don't have any.
I just have one. If you had a current law that stated that, current law or statute that stated records need to be retained for 5 years, hypothetically, and that 5-year mark was up and records were then destroyed, and the law then changes to 7 years, hypothetically, what happens then?
So what we would do in that case, so I always recommend to clients when they're disposing of records to use the then in place retention schedule, because typically, an organization would have gone through the rigor of understanding the laws, regulations, and approving that if those records and using and approving that in a schedule, and then they start to apply those records, you would have, a justification for how you applied the schedule, when you did it, and would generally be able to, dispose of the records. And then in some time frame after that, let me back up. So as long as that's documented and how you did that, generally speaking, you have a defensible process for the disposal and destruction of those records. Any changes after that, you would surely not, surely after that, you would have to, if you then updated the schedule based on the change you just mentioned, what we would do is work with you all to publish a new retention schedule to ensure any changes are captured. So the go forward destruction of records and application of the policy would be based on, the current, record keeping requirements. Did that help answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
All right. So in terms of next steps or immediate next steps in terms of the project would be what we call mobilization, where essentially our two sides working in partnership, of course, both Oklahoma County and Iron Mountain would come together to do a short a kickoff meeting where we go through all the tasks and go through all of the specific items that would need to be covered during the project. We develop a project plan with the timelines laid out, also with ownership of the various tasks and tasks to be completed during the project. So whether it's Iron Mountain tasks or Oklahoma County tasks, we lay all that out and really so that way we can help guide the customer or guide you all for what needs to be done, as we go outward. So, as we get the contact that we'll be working with, this person will also, essentially need to help us schedule, meetings with the various departments, do some, just coordination of, communication and things like that. So, generally speaking, once we start, the project, we work very closely with the contact, again, for any communication that would need to go out. We generally would run any communication by, the contact or the customer first before anything goes out, again, just so we have a true partnership and our communication reflects, what it should look like going out, to Oklahoma County's staff. So, again, we typically lay all of this out during the kickoff process. Again, just so we're all on the same page with what should happen. Again, I'll open that up as well. See if there's any initial questions, thoughts.
Not seeing any.
None. Please continue.
Okay, great. So again, that's the mobilization tasks. Again, I talked about these again as we talked about. So we'll get your what we call your policy center instance set up. We'll begin to put in this sort of framework of the retention schedule that I mentioned with these sort of what we call common business area categories of records. And then as we work with the project contact, we'll start to lay out and start to build those Oklahoma County specific, departments and records categories, so we can start to build that sooner versus later. And then once we build that, we'll start scheduling the meetings with the departments to understand, their records. And the types of records that they're using, so we're sure to capture that within our systems. So again, in terms of the mobilization, from our customers' perspective, it's typically again identifying the project team or project person. Typically there would be executive sponsorship, which I'm sure there would be here, and just to start to identify other groups that may be involved, such as legal, because at some point we'll want legal to review, the legal research and our recommendations around the retention periods and retention rules that we'll build in the retention schedule we'll want their input and review as a part of the process. And we have a team of folks, a number of lawyers who are involved in the process, and they gather all of the record keeping, laws and guidelines. So again, we'll want to have someone to interface from a legal perspective. All right. Let's see. Again, we talked a little bit about developing a list of the project participants from the departments. Again, we'll want to build that and talk through that. We also have a business profile that we've built that we'll want to run by the project team as well, just to ensure we've adequately listed a number of the items that we're going to use for the legal research and to collect the laws around the record keeping. So again, that's something else that we'll want to do. So again, more to come in terms of the project kickoff, but that's sort of where we would begin. And really at this point, what we'd be looking at in terms of an immediate next step. All right. Again, I'll open it up if there's any additional questions or thoughts about how we get started.
Sorry, I didn't have my microphone on. Does the policy you'd have with the county cover any litigation holds that might be on the records for discovery purposes and whatnot?
Yeah, so we'll want to talk about things like that. We'll talk about, and generally speaking, provide some high level guidance around record holds, especially as we build out this retention schedule. One of the nice things about building out a schedule in the way that we're going to do it is being able to help the client, or using the schedule to help the client identify groups of records that they have stored, whether it's in paper or physical form, electronic records. So where the hold process might look a little bit different going forward because of the way we build the retention schedule. So we'll surely want to talk about that as we learn a little bit about how records are managed today, because we'll want to incorporate some of those ideas in the project.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yep. All right, great questions. All right, so let's see. So we talked a little bit about this, developing the classification scheme. I'm going to move down. Let me see. Yep. Yeah, so let's move a little bit to the assumptions, because one of the things just to talk through that. So all of the work here will be conducted remotely. I don't envision any travel needed for this. We do, I'd say probably 95% or higher of these projects we do remotely, because we're able to, of course, use the tools we're using today, as well as the tool that we use to build the retention schedule. That as it's that system we utilize as well. We don't have to be on site with the customer or anything like that. So again, so all the work will be done remotely. Again, as we mentioned, the customer, you all would need to have someone designated, as we talked about, as a project manager. And again, it could be someone. I work often with people from, the project management office. It could be someone, if they have a records background. Even if they don't, we have a way to be able to educate our contacts about the process and really following the steps that need to be done. All of the records management expertise is really done on our side, and as experts in this industry, we would carry that component and provide in-depth descriptions of anything from a records management perspective as well. One of the goals we'll want to shoot for is to try to keep the retention schedule as small as possible, using something we call big buckets, or using big categories of records to keep the number of total categories of records to a minimum. So that's one of the things we do. Just makes for much easier implementation and use of the retention schedule. So again, that's something that we'll discuss as we kick off the project. So, All right. Let's see. I think those were the main. Oh, again, in terms of assumptions, again, it's U.S. We're going to provide the record keeping guidance for both state of Oklahoma and the U.S. federal laws and regulations as well. So just wanted to reiterate that. So, and that's really what we have today in terms of, approach. Again, going back just through a couple of slides around the mobilization, this is really, really where we would start, the project as, as soon as someone is designated as our contact, we'll absolutely, start to reach out to those teams and, schedule, this kickoff meeting. So, ideally, if we could start probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, that would be ideal. Again, depending on what kind of timeline it takes to select the person from the Oklahoma County team. Of course, we'll work initially to bring them up to speed and the tasks and everything else.
So Chris,
So that's
if I understand correctly, you need a contact / project manager that represents the county as a whole, and then a contact from each department. Is that correct?
that is correct.
And how much time do you envision those people taking with this project?
Yeah, so I would say for the project manager, so typically when we run the project, there's usually a weekly sort of status and check-in call. That's typically about an hour a week. To do the initial kickoff, that's about an hour as well. And then once we get kicked off, we'll do the weekly status call. That's about an hour. And then there would be time for the project manager to help, facilitate setting up meetings with the departments. So initially, I think is where the sort of initial amount of time on the project is typically higher on the front end, and then on the back end of the project, it gets less and less because once we get access to and start working with the departments, we have them review this initial set of information. The heavy lifting and developing the retention schedule then falls primarily in our court, and then we'll develop the retention schedules, have them review it, as I mentioned a little earlier. From a timeline for the folks in the departments, I would say initially to help us build out the retention schedule and to define the categories and types of records, that's probably, I'd say, maybe 2 to 3 hours total, something like that up front, spread maybe over a call or two, or maybe a couple of emails back and forth. And then once we build the draft retention schedule, the review and validation of it, that's probably another couple of hours. So I would say in total, spread over the entire time, which we think to do the project, which we've estimated somewhere around, I think we said 3 to 6 months, something like that. I have to go back and take a look. But we're thinking that's probably 5 to 10 hours, maybe over the course of the project, something like that, broken up into small increments.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Chris and all, I just wanted
Yes.
to jump in with something briefly. The
Yes.
scope of this is obviously, Chris has outlined it well, very specific. I just want to emphasize, I'm the person who can come on site as things result from this. For example, as Chris is going through with these departments, there may be things identified by those teams where there's requirements for digitization, defensible disposition of whatever records they have, physical and electronic. And between myself and the local team that we have here in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, I mean, we're able to do these walkthroughs that help you identify those types of records. And then whatever those decisions are made as far as, do those need to be destroyed because they're beyond the retention date, or do you need some other type of service to help you put it in some type of defensible mode and maintain it long term? So those are all things that we can do that are complementary to this, but understand sticking with the focus of refreshing that retention schedule. So hope that helps add some context. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
So I believe the next steps is to identify our project manager, or the person that is going to take the lead on communicating with the other departments and facilitating this. And so I have talked with Dane and our IT director. And do you have any thoughts? He was very open. I feel like it's most appropriate since this concern was not only brought up by the sheriff's department, the BOCC department, but also because of the strain that it puts on our data. And so that would be my recommendation, would be Dane to be the manager over this policy.
You're good with that, Dave? Okay.
And then if you
I
have
second the
any
motion.
issues or pushback or anything, you'll just need to let us know. So that way, if we need to have another meeting to bring everyone in that we've tasked with helping us facilitate this, we can do that as well. And maybe we could bring them in for better communication and have Chris come back and do the presentation again. But anything that we can do to help this be a smooth process, please let me know.
And we need to make a motion to accept this, receive this report.
It's attached.
Oh, okay.
So we have a motion to move forward with having Dane be the project manager.
And a second.
Yeah, I'll motion, and then we'll get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Christopher and Paul, for your time. We're very excited about this. It's very, as I stated, very much needed, and one of the things that I definitely wanted to accomplish during my tenure here at the county. So we're excited to see this come to fruition.
Excellent. We're excited to partner with you all on this effort. And thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Chris.
Okay, if there isn't any other questions, we'll move on to number 8, which is a discussion and possible action regarding the MOU between the Board of County Commissioners of Oklahoma County and the Oklahoma County District Attorney regarding the pretrial release supervision and GPS monitoring to include but not limited to unpaid invoice and additional expenses identified. Unfortunately, DA Bahana had to leave for another meeting, but she was here at the beginning, and so my apologies for not starting out with that, because I would have loved for her to be here. But it was brought up in our BET meeting by Miranda, our financial specialist, that there is an unpaid or several unpaid invoices beginning in August through December, plus lost damages in a grand total of $21,699.96. And so in the BET meeting, we discussed how we were going to fund that and discuss the need of adding this to their existing MOU since it wasn't clearly outlined. And then Miranda let us know that there were actually funds due to an error in the system that are available in order to pay this, which will allow us to pay our vendor and then give us an opportunity in order to work through that MOU, bring it back in February for P&G approval, and then we can put it across BOCC, the amended version. And so, Miranda, would you like to join us up here? She provided me, I had requested information and asked her to also send it to you individually in regards to the amounts that are located in those funds. There's a 3010 fund that has $38,695.48, and there's a 3020 fund with $59,977.60. When talking with Miranda, a thought that we can discuss would be to go ahead and pay the outstanding invoices out of the 3010, correct, that has the $38,695, which will bring us current with Allied Universal. What is it?
Yes, Allied Universal.
Allied
Monitoring.
Universal. I remembered. And I've got it backwards at least 5 times. And then so we can get that shored up, and then that 59 or the 3020 fund, which is $59,977.60. That fund has the current GPS billing that Kathy is doing currently, those funds are going into that account, correct?
That's,
Or is it opposite?
it's the opposite.
Okay,
Yes. The
so-
funds from Kathy's program go back into 3010.
Yeah, 3010. I would suggest, because 3020 is the indigent fund, that we deposit Kathy's GPS fees into the 3010 so it can continue to pay for operations. And then that $59,977 for the indigent fund, we have the DA bill us separately for any type of indigent services. So that way we have an understanding of what that looks like moving forward. And then we, in the contract, we'll get all those numbers. I'll put together a budget so we can actually see what our costs are specifically to this MOU. And then it will be a not to exceed number. And then if there's any indigent services that are paid past what we have available in those current accounts, then they're going to have to go to BET in order to find those funds. Because there's really no way for us with either the GPS monitoring or the indigent fund to know what it's going to cost us, for the year.
That's correct. It's based on the assignment of those GPS fees by the court system, so we don't really know what's coming down until they issue that.
Yeah.
So it is kind of ebbed and flowed over the years.
And those are court ordered, and it, may come to a point where we have to have the discussion of if we don't have the money, what do we do? But that's something that we can hash out once those funds are depleted. So those were some of the thoughts that I had. I know, and then we can discuss further. I know that I have discussed with Dane, and Dane is going to get me Kathy's cell phone cost as well as the monthly cost, so that way I can include that in the budget. And then, of course, I will review that with Ms. Mahana prior to bringing it back to policy and governance. But I definitely think it's important for us to go ahead and pay the Allied Universal bills, give Miranda the authorization to do that now out of the 3010. And then one last thought is that I believe that the DA should have a contract a state contract between the DA and the Universal, so that way they can pay those invoices and it's on a reimbursement MOU. They also, because whenever we did the original MOU for Kathy, we included salary and benefits. And so the benefits are not needed because she went ahead and retired with the county. And so she's receiving county benefits, and those state benefits were actually a lot higher than what we currently had budgeted. So therefore, that will free up around $11,000 in order for her to pay towards that existing bill or any future bills with the GPS monitoring, since we're possibly going to be tight on that budget. So those are and the exact amount of benefits was $13,609.97 that can be used towards the GPS monitoring fees. But since we've already paid half of that, since we've been in contract for 6 months, it would be easier for them to pay that directly to Allied rather than having to reimburse us for payments moving forward.
Just so I have my numbers right, what was the outstanding amount? $21,699.
You want to look at this? So that way, I got it right. Sorry. There we go. The challenge with the GPS monitoring is that on average, the monthly bill is around $3,000, and we had a loss in damages of around $8,327.16. And so, and Miranda, from her experience of working with court services, said that is just not something that we just don't know what to anticipate. It ebbs and flows. And so, so that's the more we can put towards that with those current benefits and allocating those funds towards that, the better, because I think we're going to end up having to come back anyways.
So where did the encumbrance amount come from? Because I'm not seeing it.
So in regards to the funds that came back, do you want to explain that, Miranda?
Which one are we looking at, Paul? I apologize.
The encumbrance amount of $73,919.45 on page 1.
I don't think I have what you were looking at, sir.
Oh, okay. So on the MOU that you're looking at, that 71,000 is for salary and benefits only.
Got it.
And so 13, that amount that you've got, the 13,000 was her benefits. And so since she's not needing those funds, basically we're overpaying the DA because it's on a flat rate. And so they should have those funds available in their account in regards to the difference. And then moving forward, we'll revise that MOU in regards to what we're paying on a reimbursement.
I do have a question for you all. If this is how we choose to proceed, would you like me to encumber and pay the current outstanding balance of that 21,000 with then the expectation that the district attorney will cover any incoming
Yes.
costs? Okay, for now.
Yeah, because whatever we can do in order to quickly get that paid, and then they can pay
Sure.
towards, that invoice.
Sure,
moving
I only
forward.
ask because of there will be a small balance of monies left over after we pay this sum that I could also encumber additionally for any other upcoming invoices. But if you'd like me to hold on that, I can do so until we meet again to revise the MOUs.
Yeah, let's make a motion to go ahead and pay that out of the third, was it 3010?
Yes, ma'am.
And then let's work on the MOU between now and the February P&G meeting, so that way we know what all funds are available, what the total expenses are with the budget, and be able to determine, so we know what our shortage may be towards the end of the year.
And I had a quick question.
Sure.
The 21,000, it's from July 1st through December 31st, right? That's what we're paying out of the 3010.
It's from August. July
August.
was paid because we were still in transition at that time. We had incurred expenses for the month of July. But after that, it's August through December.
Any other questions?
Nope.
And I'd be happy to continue to work with Ms. Behanna and Miranda and everyone in order to get that MOU on the agenda for February. Okay. You want to make the motion identifying the fund? 3010.
Yeah.
Do you want to include that in your motion, the amount and what fund it'll come out of?
Yeah. So make a motion for Miranda to go ahead and pay those. That was, the amount was $21,699.96 out of the 3010 fund to cover the GPS expenses from August through the end of the year.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other assistance you need from us? Oh, need a motion.
Oh, sorry.
Anything else you need? Questions? Okay. We'll work together and get this on the agenda for February. Thank you for bringing this to our attention and helping us through that process and providing great documentation and information. You're doing a wonderful job. Okay, and then number 9 is the discussion and possible action regarding Oklahoma County employees returning to the office following Governor Stitt's executive order 2024-29, which was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of Oklahoma County at our last BOCC meeting. And so I just wanted to add this on to talk about what departments this will affect, which would be MIS. And so Dane is here to speak on that. And then also our benefits, John Wilkerson's team. And I can't think of anybody else.
That I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Are there any?
Can you think of anybody else?
Are there any others?
Okay. I know the challenge with MIS is space. And so do you have thoughts, Dane, on concerns?
Well, right now, our data center is measured out and rated for 19 people. We have 25. So you're talking about 6 people that would have to find space for somewhere.
Okay.
And possibly furniture.
And so the only
What's out
place that I could think of would be where we had court services on the 9th floor down that hallway.
There's 4.
There's 4. And then there's also a big
We walked that on
room.
Monday.
Huh?
We walked that on Monday.
Oh, okay. And
There's what used to be, I think, the DA Witness Center
Mhm.
in front, but I believe the DA's office, according to facilities, when we checked, is still using
It's
that.
still utilizing it.
So that's not necessarily available.
Okay. it is,
How many do you have currently that are working from home?
Fully or hybrid?
Well, give me both.
Okay. Fully, I would say probably 5 people,
Fully 5.
4 to 5 people.
Okay.
Okay, and even they come in for a meeting if need be. But as far as doing their daily tasks, and they're all applications people. Okay, I've got one level 3 that's I would say pretty close to fully remote. Still comes in for a meeting or still comes into a location and has to check hardware. But what we have done, and we've done this for the last 5 years, is we've assigned 2 level 1s to be here at the annex to cover the downtown complex. Okay, we have a level 1 assigned to be down here for the downtown complex, and then we have a level 3 that sort of floats. Okay, our security team, for the most part, works remotely. They've come in. One of them might come in once a week, but it's a job that they're not touching hardware, so they can do it from anywhere. Okay, so that's the way we've rolled for the last 5 years. Now, for the level 1s that are not assigned to be down here at the annex, they cover all of the other locations that we're responsible for. So by having them dispersed where they're at actually helps our support be faster. Your yards especially. We have people that I used to have, a level 1 that could literally walk to your yard and be there in 5 minutes or less, if you had an issue. I've got people out in the eastern part of the county for D2, both a mile from 911 if we have to get to 911. You bring them all back downtown, and now you're talking about 15 minutes just to get out of downtown. So something to consider. That's how we've operated for the last 5 years. So there's a presence. We're always here. There's always a presence here. But as far as people that are fully remote, it's 4 to 5 people.
Because there are exceptions to this. Do they have to be in, I don't remember reading this, do they have to be in writing at all, giving a justification?
I felt like there was an exception due to capacity.
Yes, there are exceptions.
I had read.
It looks like just a quarterly report as to what the exceptions are. And justification for it.
Sure.
And yeah, space is a justification.
Space is a justification.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in the order.
And then is there an importance for them to be here at the courthouse or the annex? Would it be an issue if some of the employees were located at JJC where social services resided? That was the only other place I could think of.
Yeah, I mean, you could put them at other locations, but considering what we do, you have to secure that area. You can't have programmers who deal with data. You keep writing applications. You can't have the level 1s who deal with hardware and have access to the data that we have sitting in areas that are not secure.
Yeah, and that's where we have
at least the ninth. I will say at least the 9th floor of the courthouse does have. It is behind security because I can't even get into it right now to go look at it or show my people that took facilities to do that. But yeah, if you want to put them at JJC or something like that, and that is an option. Sure, you can space them out as far as, let's say, the level 1s, I wouldn't say the level 2s, but the level 1s, because they're the ones that spend the majority of their time at outside locations. I mean, let's not get lost in our 3 biggest clients are the sheriff's office, juvenile, and the DA, none of which are in this building. So there's a pretty better than even chance that they're not going to be here anyway.
But it makes sense, since those are our biggest clients, to have an employee that offices in those areas.
And we have done that. When I started in 2010, we actually had a person that was assigned at juvenile, but they were in a secured room, what we called our data center at the time out there. It's not much of a room, it's more of a closet. But.
And I could see a need maybe at the sheriff's department, and also since, the emergency management eventually, or is, in that area too, so they could kind of serve, just thinking out loud.
Yeah, sure,
in regards to where we could put those additional
you
2
still have
people.
other areas that, just because you put somebody at Krause doesn't mean they're going to be there only there. They might still have to go to the election board. They might still have to go to District 3. They might still have to go to wherever. So it's just something to consider.
But you feel right now, at this particular time,
Mhm.
they're making use of their location in the most efficient manner.
Yeah, if you look at our numbers and our response times, well, I think the data shows that the way we've been doing it for the last 5 years works pretty well. Now, I realize the DA is not going to be, in leadership forever. They'll move back over here at some point, sure, but sheriff's office is not moving down in here, neither is juvenile. Your guards aren't going anywhere. So it's just how important is response time. Because if you locate everybody down here like it used to be, okay, the response times are going to suffer. If you're fine with that, then okay. If you okay with a 45-minute hour response time versus 10 minutes,
Right.
in some cases, sure.
I think response times are the more important aspect.
Just
The-
those are all things to consider.
So if we, because of space, I'm just thinking aloud.
Yeah,
Because we have to come up with a plan if we adopt it, since we adopted this by February 1st. And so there's not time between now and the next policy and governance. So since you have 6 employees that, did I hear that correctly, that are remote, if you had 4 of them office, in the court services offices, and then because of space, had 2 of them that were kind of hybrid, had a space at maybe one of those locations, but then also maybe also worked from home, however you worked it out.
Sure.
That made sense because they were close to a yard or close to a centralized area. Would that,
So you want to put them into, let's say juvenile. We'll just use juvenile for an
yeah.
example. Okay, you still have to put them in a secure area.
okay.
Where do they go?
I was thinking they could work from home and it was like a hybrid since it's a space issue. And if we don't have
Right.
anybody else, if we had 4 in-house,
Yeah, but if it's the
Court
most,
services.
if it's the most efficient the way it is right now, it's still an exception, an appropriate.
It's an appropriate
exception
exception.
to the rule.
I would personally rather have quicker response times than anything else and maintain them in secure areas.
And I think we have had some issues in regards to, from what I've heard, some of the remote employees putting personal matters before service. And so, that also goes into play and maybe the reason why, some of the reasons why, from what we've heard as the chairman's office, why at least our district feels it's important to return to work. And so I was just trying to think of the best way of handling that. So, does your district have an opinion?
No,
Huh?
no. I don't have a problem getting a hold of my people, and it's not that hard. to
I've
keep
never-
tabs on what they're doing.
Yeah,
so.
I've never personally had an issue, but we have had
Sure.
complaints.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement with Paul. Just if right now is the best way that it works, then I think we're justified in the exception to keep it this way. I think.
Can you at least give us not now, sometime,
Sure.
just jot it down, piece
Mhm.
of paper, whatever, exactly where,
How we do what we do.
no,
Or-
exactly where everybody is.
And justifications, because I guess we
Sure.
have to report. Is that correct? So we would need a report to us in regards to justifications and just outcomes, I guess, in regards to better response times. And maybe just bring it to policy and governance just
Sure.
quarterly.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah,
In the
easy enough.
meantime, just email it to us so we have something before February 1st.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or I don't even know if it needs to be quarterly, even maybe, biannually. So
Whichever.
that way it's, let's do biannually, unless it's specified. Where did you see that?
What was in there?
A list of exception approved by agency director.
It's number 5. Write a
Quarterly.
report.
Okay, it's quarterly. If you could just bring it to policy and governance quarterly,
Sure.
we'd appreciate that.
All right. So we just keep doing what we're doing.
Yep.
All right.
And then,
I'm
but
gonna go
as
with
for
you.
benefits, they need to return to work and not work half shifts. What were they doing, Karen? She's their timekeeper. But they both have offices, right? Yeah, so there's no reason for them, due to space, not to be in the office. And what's their hours? Okay.
somewhere.
Okay, and we'll have conversation, I guess, the chair, most probably appropriate from the chairman's office to have conversation with John Wilkerson
That's fine.
for BOCC. Okay. Okay. You want to make the motion?
Sure. Okay, make a motion that the employees from MIS continue doing what they're doing, provided we get a report from Dane quarterly and an initial report, at least by email prior to February 1st, and that all benefit employees return to work no later than, what was the date? February 1st also, correct? Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm going to skip to number 11 before we do number 10. So number 11's, well, no, let's do number 10. 10 is the discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status reports related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's grants programs. And so number 11 is a discussion regarding recruitment and hiring that person, but I think it'd be good for us to talk through what we have outstanding and what we need to be working on. I attached the grants report last provided on December 17th by Nikki Morton in regards to the grant funding that's been received by the administrator so far, in the grand total of $4,666,391.51. And so just something good to keep in mind in regards to what she was able to accomplish in the 2 years that she was here. Some of them were grants that were provided specifically, like the opioid grants that were through settlements that the AG provided, and a grant, which was the state 781 monies. And so, half of that was kind of low-hanging fruit, but still, it's important to understand with a grant administrator or a grant writer, a grants person, is that applying for a grant is one thing. It's all of the compliance and the work that goes afterwards. As a former grant writing and nonprofit leader, it was fun writing the grants. It was exciting to get it, but it is, and what we've seen with the censure in regards to the hard work and excellent work that they've done for us with ARPA funding, that is the most important piece. And so there has been a lot of work done. And then the grants watch list, I believe the only ones that I had some concerns about were the 781 money. There's still an MOU that's outstanding, and we need to we invoice monthly for that. And so I wanted to make sure that there's somebody that's still making sure that that's happening. I believe that District 1 had been working with Bridget Duffel and our chief public defender in regards to that MOU. And when I had talked with her and I talked with Joe, he was very aware of what was going on. So I feel at ease with the 781 money, but that is important for us to get that MOU done. So if you have any update on that, or we'll have an update in February, we would love to hear that.
I can definitely get that update
Okay.
to you next meeting.
Yeah, because I don't want to step on any toes, and Joe's done a really great job staying on top of that. And so the 781 money, and then the opioid abatement funds through the DA. At the last policy and governance meeting, we talked about that unfortunately OU was not able to continue to receive or allocate that grant funding, and so we were needing to discuss what that looks like moving forward in this January meeting in regards to if we're going to send out an RFP or if we're going to consider existing grants. My recommendation is to send out an RFP specific to what we want to fund, whether, what and what we can fund based off of the requirements for the opioid abatement. And because the reason why I would suggest sending out an RFP is it's been over a year and a half since we've selected that recipient, and a lot can happen in nonprofit organizations. They continue their quest to get things funded. a lot has changed, and we even saw that with ARPA. Whenever we came back just months later, there were a lot of ARPA grants that were no longer, they no longer had that need. And so I would make the recommendation specific to the opioid grants to move forward with an RFP process with Chantel. Other than that, I feel like unless you guys,
Grant and not the settlement.
yes, that is the grant. So we would be selecting a recipient to receive that funding, and then we would and it would be on us to do the compliance work and the invoicing in order to pay that recipient. Other than that, I didn't see, unless you guys saw anything that is just outstanding. Everything else I feel like she applied for, and we either were not eligible or it was not awarded.
What is outstanding on the, that you know of, on the Volkswagen settlement trust? Is that just equipment that needs to be still purchased and then reimbursed, or?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of those, and we didn't receive those, and so I think it would be beneficial to get with.
Every district.
We didn't. D2 didn't apply.
Oh, you didn't apply?
Mm-mm.
Okay. But all three did.
And so, no, just D1 and D3. So you might get with Karen and go through those files and see where we're at on that. Yeah, and all the files are in there. Karen and I cleaned the office up just so that way it would be easy for the next person to come in and be able to have that documentation, took out, past notes and more or less BOCC and PNG agendas that weren't necessarily needed. But all those files are retained in that office. I believe that there was an energy one that she was working with Keith on too for chargers, EV chargers. So we may need to reach out to Keith.
Oh, yeah. Chargers in Metro 1.
Yeah, Metro
2.
1.
That was one that had already been awarded, though, correct?
It had been awarded, but I don't know if we've received the funding.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we need to touch base, maybe add to the agenda for Keith to come and give a report. So I guess until we, in number 11, determine, vote on whether or not we move forward with recruitment of that position, we could add an agenda item for February for Keith to give us an update on that project, and then either D1 or D3 to give us an update on the DEQ. You want to do that? Update on the DEQ, the solid waste program, the one that you received the equipment for, to see. Okay. Yeah, and you can get with Karen. We didn't receive the funding for any equipment, but other than that, I don't think there's anything else outstanding. I know that there was one grant that Ms. Morton was looking at in regards to polling sites. I don't know if you want to follow back up with that, or just maybe consider it if it's funding for next year.
Probably going to be one that will. There's no rush on that. That's probably something we could wait for that position to be filled again and basically just start over.
Okay.
She was just at the very beginning stages of it anyway.
Okay. She had brought it to our office, and that's why I knew about it too. But other than that, I think that is the plan. I do think that we need to, for the opioid abatement, just for possibly maybe this committee, and we can work towards identifying areas or maybe internal uses for our detention center and our district attorney, or because that's kind of what I feel like we did for ARPA the first time, didn't I? It was before me. Whenever we did the first ARPA allocations, wasn't it an internal application first with our partners? I can ask Daniel. That might be a recommendation, rather than, because we've already worked, and it'll also be easier records retention and compliance if we're working with, our district attorney, because Vicky gave me a whole list of their needs, or needs at the detention center for opioid abatement, or needs at juvie, and then that way we have, our county partners and employees that we're working with. It might be in this situation a little bit easy for us rather than utilizing those funds and opening it up to the community, because we had a huge response. And we just gave out, millions through ARPA. So maybe focusing more internally on this would be a better approach, until we can get the right person in this seat. Does that sound good? I have the requirements for the opioid grant, and we can either at the next meeting have more of a firm plan that I can present, and then I can actually present the presentation of what that looks like. And then I believe when Accenture comes on, I think we may be able to utilize their help in regards to understanding how we did the portal internally and maybe replicating that. But I just don't think we're prepared to make a decision in regards to what that looks like. But my recommendation would be keep it close. You have any other thoughts on that? Okay. Just to recap, I don't know if we necessarily have to make a motion, but D1 is going to work on the DEQ grant, just to make sure, see where we're at on it with Karen. You're going to, and also follow up with the 781, which I believe Joe's already currently working on, to see what we need to do. That MOU will need to go across the Board of County Commissioners. I have a copy of it. It's been sent out. And then Bridget Bull is the one that sent it. And then I'll work on a presentation for opioid in order to present, and work with Accenture in order to figure out how they did that internal portal. Maybe it's something we do with MIS. And what were you going to look at? I think that's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on that? Just so we can make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Okay. I don't think there's any Lisa's or any motion needed. Just proceed as discussed. Sorry. What's that one? Oh yeah, that's number 11. Lisa, do we have to make a motion on those tasks, or can we just proceed as discussed? Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to proceed as discussed.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 11 is discussion and possible action regarding the recruitment for grants writer specialist position. Thoughts on this? Karen?
Well, as we know, what position is vacant, it needs to be discussed. Are we going to go further with recruiting and posting, or are we going to just halt for now?
So I'll start. Our office, in regards to the viewpoint of District 2, is from the very, very beginning, before me, who's my commissioner? Commissioner Mon was not interested in having a grant writer. And so for various reasons in regards to just keeping our overhead low, and I believe that this was a recommendation from District 3 at that time, and Paul wasn't there at that time either. And so that is really our continued stance for this position. And so so it really is going to be up to
District 3
1 and
stance
District 3.
is that, yes, we do continue. This is over $4.5 million. Granted, there were 2 grants that made up 75% of that. The rest was kind of low-hanging fruit, but it really doesn't matter. That's
Right.
$4.5 million to the county. We feel that's a needed position. We need to get somebody qualified in there, hopefully even more qualified.
Okay.
And continue on. So I guess Ryan, you're the tiebreaker.
The District 1 stance is to agree with you, Paul, is to continue moving forward with the application and to find a grant specialist. It's an important position and it's been good for us. We need to have one.
I will gladly get it posted and start a recruitment for it. Any questions?
Thank you for
or-
your hard work on that. And thank you for supervising that position. That's another thing that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
you're fine.
something else that needs to be discussed eventually is, the changes in regards to Karen Kent's role as supervisor of HR, safety, and now finance and grants. And so while we are very, very grateful that you are willing and a team player and, do such an amazing job, we do need to, in another discussion, preferably in an executive session, discuss what that looks like moving forward and make sure that you're compensated accordingly. And
Okay.
so I just want you to make sure that you're aware that we see your hard work and your willingness, and that will be a discussion at a later date.
Okay. Any questions about the recruitment, or do it as I normally would? We usually post it for 2 weeks.
Go ahead, what's your normal?
Normally, we've updated the job description, so that's check. Then we'll get it posted on our job sites, which we don't pay for. We use the free ones first. If we're not finding the ideal candidate, then we can go out and do some ads and pay for them if we need to. But normally, we don't pay for any of the recruitments, though, because we get such a response. But it's changed. The job scene is changing every day, so we may have to go out and do a little more. But I'd say give it a week on our websites, because once we post, Indeed picks it up for free and goes everywhere with it. So usually we get a little bit from the Indeed without having to pay for it.
Based on the caliber of the candidate that we want, does there need to be any discussion in terms of salary?
I believe that the salary needs to be increased, but I don't know how that works in regards to what we've already budgeted and if there's any room. Yeah.
Right.
In regards to,
We do need to look at that a little bit. I believe one of the conversations I had with Commissioner Davidson was that what the current rate was pretty good, that we were a little higher than what some other organizations pay their grant writers. But I'd be glad to go out and look at the market and see where we are on that comparably.
whoever we hire will need to be a very strong grant
Yes.
writer that can take initiative, that can come in, know exactly what they're doing,
Right.
understanding writing for state and federal grants, being able to come in and do the research, very self-driven and skilled in what they're doing. And some
Okay.
success in regards to grant writing. I would suggest maybe having a sample provided whenever you're doing the interviews of their writing skills, or a grant that they have written, and a list of grants that they have been awarded in their career. That would be pretty standard for somebody that has the experience and that can come in and really
Okay.
do an awesome job for the county and be able to walk into the office and know exactly what they need to do
Right.
without any type of, a lot of direction, since it is
Step in and take it and run with it.
and run
I do have
within the boundaries.
no within our
What we-
boundaries. We need to
of what
specify
we're
that.
looking for.
The interviews. Who would y'all like to be on the interview panel? Do all three of you from your organization, your offices, want to participate in that, or do you want my staff to do it and then give you guys 2 finalists? How would y'all prefer that?
Taking my stand.
I'm gonna kind of leave that to you. You're the only one among the three of us who has any grant experience at all.
Or would just Jessica like to sit on the interview panel? But especially since her office isn't wanting one.
I know that's what.
I mean, that's a
That's
little
like
ironic.
Yeah. I would be happy. I'm always happy to help in any way.
Right.
And want this person to be very, very successful, and want us definitely to have the right candidates. So I'd be happy to help identify and be on that panel.
Okay, and then we could take the finalists to the other 2 to observe and maybe do a second interview with. Okay, I'm good with all of that. Anything else?
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay. Did we? Okay. Number 12 is discussion possible action regarding policies, procedures, status report related to planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's ARPA funding allocation. And we have, feel like Danielle may still be online. I'm so sorry, Danielle. I appreciate your patience, and we're happy to have you joining us virtually.
Yes, no problem at all. Happy to be here as well. So I am going to share my screen today. I do have a copy of this that was already sent over to the clerk's office, so you are able to access it as well. But this way, Sharon doesn't have to click through the slides for me. I'll just go ahead and do it from my screen. It should be a relatively quick update since we did all of the mad dash hard work at the end of December. So now this is just a really exciting update on our obligations. So we'll talk a little bit about the fund status, your subrecipient management, so the new subrecipients we pushed through in December, just a quick reporting update, and then the future work plan as we start looking at the next few months. So looking at your fund status, as you all know, you received that $154 million in ARPA, and then you received the $100,000 in LATCF allocation. So in total, that was $154,992,206 that has been fully obligated, which is really exciting, 100%. So there are no funds that are being returned back to Treasury. They are all being put into Oklahoma County to make the community a better place. There was a total of 143 projects that were approved. That is what is getting those authorized and obligated funds to that 100% is on those 143 projects. And then out of those projects, about 55% have an expenditure year to date. So we have spent 86 million of that 154 million. This breaks that expended year to date down a little bit further for you. So as you can see, that 100% expended, there were 96 total projects that have been fully expended. And that is a large number, but the way that it is encompassed as a reminder is this was what has been liquidated by the county. So these are really encompassing your closed internal county projects and also your subrecipients that have already received fully funding. We do track the subrecipient expenditure reporting separately, but for county record purposes, you can see that those dollars have gone out the door and are no longer sitting in the county account. You have 13 projects that have been expended at more than 50%. You have 14 projects that have been expended at less than 50%. And then you have 20 projects with zero expenditure. And that's going to be mostly your new subrecipients that came along in December. And we'll talk a little bit more about those subrecipients in a future section. So overall, this just gives you a breakdown of what your total SLRFRF allocation is going to look like per EC status. So as you can clearly see, there was a substantial amount of dollars that have been put into the public health category, quickly followed by public sector capacity, and then your negative economic impact. So this is the way the chart will continue to look. Those yellow pieces that show what has been expended will continue to grow to match the obligation and authorized amounts. So this won't change much other than the yellow line, but does give you a good visual of how things have gone into the EC codes that were provided by Treasury. And then again, this is by entity. So this again will not be changing because this is pretty much finalized unless we have to do a reallocation of funds if a project comes in short and things like that. But you can see that a substantial number of funds were going into the community at that $15.4 million number. The sheriff's office receiving 27 million, facilities receiving 7.8, and so forth. So this is a really good overview of just kind of where each of those dollars fell within county programs and within the community. So we will talk quickly about subrecipient management. I know you guys have been there a long time today already, so we won't spend too much time on this. This is not a new process. You all are very much aware of this. At the beginning of December, and end of December, we created those new MOUs and contract amendments for a handful of subrecipients. It was about 15. And so we have already completed and obligated those MOUs, and those were signed by both the county and the subrecipient. The EFTs were collected for the AP department so that we could create the individual organizations as vendors to create those obligations. And then from there, we are going forward with the formal subrecipient contracting process. So we have sent each of these subrecipients the required documentation that we need for them to fill out in order for us to complete their subrecipient agreement. So this includes their very detailed budget, project descriptions, their key performance indicators, and so forth. You can see that we have received a couple on this slide, 3 so far out of this group, and they also have to submit their risk assessment. So as we continue to collect those documents, we will continue to update this, and then the sooner we receive those from the individual organizations, the sooner we're able to put their information into the actual subrecipient agreement. We did today send a follow-up reminder to them, letting them know that the sooner they want their funds, the sooner they need to submit their paperwork. So this just gives you an overview of where each of those new subrecipients is at, and same with this next slide. So this is encompassing all of those new ones, just making sure we're tracking from start to finish that we've gotten all of their paperwork and can get them into the formal contracted process. Talking a little bit now about reporting updates. So it is a quarterly reporting month. I was in the portal yesterday making some updates, and we have given the subrecipients a deadline of the 15th, which is tomorrow, to provide us with their updated expenditures, because I have to report those in the portal as well. So we have sent a reminder for that, telling them to please make sure that they are in tomorrow. That way I can quickly get started on getting everything updated. Just as a good overview, there has been a total of 12 quarterly reports submitted, with 9 more remaining. Once this one is complete, that number will reduce to 8. And then we have submitted 4 of the annual recovery plans, with 3 remaining. The next one will be due in July. And this is that same information, just breaking down. You can see in the green, those are the reports that we have already completed. The purple is where we are now, and then the yellow is the upcoming. This helps kind of look at the next 6 months of how reporting is going. So we sent out in December and in January the information to collect from subrecipients and agencies their expenditure data. And then that was due to us by the 15th, tomorrow. And then the P&E report will be due at the end of this month on the 31st. After that, the next reporting collection cycle will start and becomes due at the end of April. So that will encompass January, February, March. And then as we get into July, we will have the annual report that is due, and we will start prepping for that very, very early in June, as it is a very comprehensive report, as you all will remember, and it goes on the county website so that it is public facing and anyone can see the great work that is going on in each of the organizations. So looking at a few more reports in the next few months, and then that will continue to be ongoing. So talking about our work plan, this is just very, very high level. In December, we completed that reallocation of unused and unobligated funds. We had the creation of the 12 new MOUs and then 3 contract amendments. So that was adding some additional funds to already existing subrecipients. And then we had the obligation finalization and munis report reconciliation. So worked with the purchasing department and the clerk's office as well to make sure that our numbers and your numbers all look the same, which they did, and that no funds were going to be returning back to the Treasury Department. So some high-level lifts in December, but those have been completed, and now we are off to a really fresh, wonderful start here in January. So as I was mentioning, we will establish those new subrecipient agreements as we're collecting their information and their risk assessment information. We will go in to do quarterly reporting. By the end of this month, it will be completed. And then going into February, we'll be back on site. So we'll pick up with some site visits and desk reviews again. In the long term, as always, we are continually just tracking the progress of each of the county agencies and our subrecipients that still have funds to expend, and making sure that all of the compliance files maintain up to date. So those processes won't change as we continue to move forward, and we'll continue to meet with the subrecipients on a regular basis. This is just a quick overview, gives kind of a concept of what this next entire year will look like. So you can see there is an increase in the number of site visits and desk reviews that will occur, and this is because we now have a larger number of subrecipients. So we'll continue to come on site and collect their information and make sure that all of their compliance files look correct and put together, and that they feel confident in their storage systems as well. And then, of course, as you can see, we've marked on here where we'll do our preparations for quarterly and annual reporting as well. So just kind of a high level overview as we start out the new year of what you can look forward to and what we'll be working on as we continue moving forward. And that is really all I have for you guys today, unless, of course, there are any questions.
Nope.
Thank you for the update.
Thanks, Danny.
It's very exciting.
Absolutely.
So
It
a
is. It's
handful
been
of weeks
great.
there, I think you're gonna need a vacation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to rest up, I assure you.
Yeah, you guys, Accenture did, Jamie and Danielle, we really appreciate working with you, and it was a great experience, and just really proud and excited of all that we accomplished.
Absolutely. It was a incredible couple of years getting everything organized and put together, and happy to see all of it cross that finish line. And we couldn't be more grateful to work with you all either.
All right, thanks, Danny.
I'll tell you, I've never been more excited about January 1st in my entire life. Okay, well, any other discussion? I guess motion to receive report.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any citizen participation? Seeing none. Board comments? Any board comments, Ryan?
I think so.
Well, I'm none.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to welcome you to Policy and Governance Committee. Just really appreciate you being here and part of the team. And you had wonderful questions, and so you did a really great job today. We appreciate your feedback, and wanted to take a moment to thank Paul for coming out. And where are you from?
I actually live up in the Milwaukee area.
In Milwaukee.
But I plan to be down in Oklahoma City on a fairly regular basis going forward, so let me know when I'm needed.
Well, good. Well, we appreciate your time and you being present today, and looking forward to our partnership.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Paul.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Anything else from you?
Nothing
Okay.
for me. Motion to adjourn.
Not seeing any business. Got a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again.
Thank you.